did everyone enjoy the short summary that we just had a chance to see?
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty good summary, I would say. I actually was looking through the Korean versions, but didn't think of that there would be the English version of it. But I think they've done a pretty good job of summarizing the whole 7-episode series. I mean, I've already been introduced, but I actually I work for a different NGO called the Transitional Justice Working Group, and as our name implies, our goal is to prepare for this kind of transitional justice or a political transition in North Korea and other, I guess, less than democratic countries. Obviously, this kind of transition has not really happened with respect to North Korea, unlike in the Money Heist series that we just seen. But our goal actually is closer to preparing for this kind of, what we would like to think of as an eventuality or something that would happen in the near future. As you can imagine from just by watching this series, any kind of political transition or this kind of a reunification of the two pretty much independent states, separate independent states for the past 70 years will be quite chaotic, both politically and economically. And that kind of, I guess, the euphoria that will follow the political change in North Korea will be pretty short-lived, and which will be replaced by this kind of more chaotic, I guess, aftermath. And which is why our NGO TJWG wants to prepare things in advance. So it's almost like pre-transitional justice. In the sense that we try to document the human rights violations and abuses in North Korea, and also propose and also deliberate on various proposals to actually realize accountability for both judicial and non-judicial for the crimes against humanity and other human rights violations that have been taking place in North Korea. So that's basically where I come from with this kind of international law, transitional justice, human rights background. I guess at the same time, I'm also interested in this kind of theory of change, basically how countries like North Korea would possibly change. I actually grew up. I was in high school in the 90s when North Korea was going through this horrendous famine, which they themselves called the Arduous March. And many people at the time expected the North Korean state to collapse. The North Korean economy has already collapsed, and many thought the political system would follow very quickly. Now, so there was this whole debate about how to, I guess, guide this kind of North Korean contingency, either through soft landing or through hard landing. In retrospect, as you know, neither hard nor soft landing ever took place in North Korea. The North Korean state is still there. North Korean as a state, as a country, still exists. So it's really this kind of very challenging question, will North Korea even change? And I think this Money Heist series portrays, one possible scenario, this kind of multiverse kind of, if you think of these different possible parallel worlds where this kind of change could happen in North Korea. As a thought experiment, I think that was very interesting. To actually see how that kind of political economic change might actually play out in this kind of a real world situation. I guess so. I understand that most of you are PSCORE interns, and do we have I don't know about the nationality. I know that Mille and Julia are from Denmark. Do we have people from countries like Germany maybe here? Okay. Are you guys old enough to remember the the fall of the Berlin Wall and or not. Judging from your faces, I assume that you're not from that pre-Unification 1989 generation. I mean, even for me, it's a pretty vague memory now, and happened almost 30 years ago now. And do we also have people from maybe Spain, where this the original series, which inspired this Money Heist drama, was actually made. I don't know if you've seen the La Casa de Papel, which is actually the House of Paper. I think this was actually. Have you seen like the original version?
Yes.
Some of you? Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I personally thought actually the older version was more interesting in the sense that I think I mean, it's also my personal take, but I think we South Koreans tend to make we tend to like add like this kind of humor and I guess the more positive spin to the existing original. And kind of, I mean, the original, like the House of Paper, is really dark, and like throughout the whole series, like the color is pretty dark, and the whole mood of the story is pretty dark, and the people, I mean, are very serious. I think throughout, whereas I think with the Money Heist South Korean remake, it's more, more comical even. I mean, maybe it's a little too much, but I think it's also definitely has that kind of very South Korean flavor added to it. And I think, fully. Another interesting point is that this kind of obviously the original, the House of Paper. It's actually a term that's used repeatedly by the professor in this the South Korean version as well. But I think it was basically like this kind of a Robin Hood style social critique of the existing, political economy, and not just in Spain, but more broadly the world these days. Whereas I guess when you try to apply those, issues that we kind of face in this kind of modern capitalist economies to this kind of very, to put it very mildly, unique North Korean or this kind of inter-Korean situation, I'm not sure if it's like totally convincing or persuasive, because for the simple fact that North Korea has not made this kind of a change or transition into the free market economy yet, and I don't want to guess when they will make this kind of big economic transition, but I think it would be very difficult for North Korea to ever make this kind of economic transition. In that sense, I'm a somewhat less optimistic holder view. But what I wanted to emphasize is that some of the premises in the series is very interesting, because it's actually some of the assumptions that are made back in the early 2000s and maybe up to the mid 2000s, when the Kaesong industrial complex was actually functioning. And it was a very interesting venture in the sense that the whole idea, the concept behind this scheme was that North Korea, basically viewing North Korea as this kind of a developmental state, trying to transition into a market economy, and which means that it's a very, a country with cheap labor, whereas South Korea was a more developed capitalist economy, which meant that we have more capital, we have more technology, we have more industrial capacities, whereas North Korea lacked these, features of a developed economy, industrialized nation. But since they have abundant pool of workers who can work at a much cheaper wage compared to the South Korean workers, we the South Koreans, South Korean capitalists would go to North Korea, build this massive industrial park, where the North Korean workers would basically work at a very cheap, salaries. So that was the working assumption, that this idea that one, North Korea is ready to make this kind of economic transition, and two, assuming that North Korea is becoming more like a typical capitalist economy, that this kind of South Korean capital fusing with North Korean labor would provide this kind of a win-win situation for both sides. And there actually were already critiques that we see in this series, Money Heist series, that this is basically exploitation of North Korean labor. That is the South Korean, business people who will profit from this kind of by exploiting the North Korean workers. And obviously, from the North Korean side of things, the North Korean officials or the North Korean state will also profit from this business arrangement, because they're not just in it for philanthropic reasons. Obviously, they do get their cuts, like in terms of bribery, or in a more official, way, in the sense that they actually, the way it worked at the Kaesong Industrial Complex was that the wage was not paid directly to the workers, but it was actually paid to the state, and which took a very heavy cut before. So very smaller portion went to the workers. The larger portion ended up with the North Korean officialdom. So that kind of almost like a somewhat Marxist critique already did exist in the 2000s when the Kaesong Industrial Complex was up and running. Now, fast forward like about 10 years, as you all know, what happened to the Kaesong Industrial Complex? Have you been watching the news over the years?
Did it stop operating?
Yeah, why did it stop operating?
I don't remember exactly.
Wasn't it the North Korea closed it down for like a unilateral choices?
Right, they did. So what was the North Koreans doing? But do you know why the North Koreans kind of like...
I remember there was something going on with the American president at the time, but I remember if it was Bush, or maybe like said about the axis of the evil.
That's way back actually.
That was
almost
way back,
I think it was 2002.
Yeah, that was 2002. That's right. But
right.
it closed it down in 2008, right?
A little
officially
later.
in 2012 and 2008 was because of the tourists who got here.
Oh, so that was actually Mount Kumgang. Actually you raise a good point. So Mount Kumgang was another business project, and that was developed in this kind of inter-Korean reconciliation / dialogue. And basically it was supposed to be this kind of nice tourist place called Mount Kumgang, which I kind of regret that I didn't go at the time. But basically it was a deal made between the North Korean government and Hyundai, another South Korean chaebol or conglomerate, to have this kind of a tourist program for mostly South Koreans to visit this particular area called Mount Kumgang. And obviously this is not just for free, but the North Korean side will get some, again, some of the funds, the profits that are generated from this tourist plan. And that was actually shut down much earlier in 2008 because it was a pretty bizarre incident, but one of the tourists, a South Korean tourist, she has some family issues, some mental issues, and for reasons that were never really clarified, she kind of strayed into the restricted area, and North Korean guards, being North Korean guards, they just shot her, this unarmed South Korean civilian woman, and not surprisingly, the South Korean government actually demanded that the North Korean authorities investigate how this happened and bring the responsible people to justice. And surprise, surprise, the North Koreans did not follow up on this, demand. And so in retaliation, the South Korean government revoked this whole project. So So that's how the Kumgang project ended. Mangbang Kumgang tourism project ended. And so fast forward, I think about 6 years, and it's actually, it was, there was this building military tension, political tension between the two sides, South Korea and North Korea. And basically, it was actually President Park Geun-hye at the time in South Korea who ordered that the South Korean businesses and South Korean citizens who are in Kaesong at the time are to leave immediately and return to South Korea. So that was I guess the official closing of the Kaesong Industrial Park. And so there were actually many reasons why the South Korean authorities did that, but mainly the kind of fear they had was that if they kept this project running, then the North Koreans might someday decide to use the South Koreans there as hostages if this kind of military situation escalates. So again, that was a very controversial decision at the time. Whether it was, some argued that it was actually very useful in at least maintaining some, I guess, semblance of inter-Korean joint ventures, and also in terms of reducing military tension, the Kaesong industrial complex could have assisted in that aspect. On the other side, obviously, the more, I guess, security-focused argument was that it's basically profiting the North Korean government, because, like I said, this project was not something that did not profit the North Korean government. So, and also, again, the threat of the South Korean people there being taken hostage by the North Korean authorities. Basically, that was the argument that won the day. And fast forward another 6-7 years, it was actually Kim Yo-jong who kind of blew up the South Korean government building that used to exist in Kaesong, which had been abandoned for about 6-7 years at the time. And so this was again, it was at the time. This was after this Hanoi summit between Donald Trump, U.S. President Donald Trump, and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un kind of fell apart in early 2019, and since then the tensions again started to get kind of brew. And basically, again, the North Koreans, in their typical bravado, think that we will continue to escalate provocations. And again, so this Kaesong South Korean government building was their target at the time. And I think you may have also come across some news reports that some of the factory parts and also facilities that the South Koreans had invested and built over the years have been kind of basically confiscated by the North Korean authorities, and they're being reused for the Chinese businesses or basically other foreigners visiting and I guess doing business with North Korea. So again, another legal contention so basically from the South Korean government's perspective, North Koreans have stole our money, stole our capital, and there have been some creative proposals about how to reclaim basically seek compensation for what the North Korean government has done. So this kind of this episode with the real joint economic area, the Kaesong complex, and also the Mount Kumgang tourist project, it kind of illustrates why the market economy is so difficult to realize in North Korea. But can you actually guess why it's so difficult to start this kind of a market economy oriented transition in North Korea? I mean, have you given some thoughts about that?
Maybe because the good condition they have for the moment, and of course the political side of it. I know that there was a time that Kim Jong-un was thinking of adopting Doi Moi
Oh, the Vietnamese
Yeah, the
stuff.
Vietnamese thing, but it could not really be possible because it did not try to separate the financial economic part of view with the political part of view. It can be pretty hard, but also because if they did not give up their nuclear plan, it's never going to be happening that the international community is going to accept.
Oh, the nuclear issue, yes.
So even that, but even if the two Koreans collaborate, there is like too big of a gap between the two. Hold on. Like, point of view.
Oh, what's your name? I'm sorry.
Sarah?
Sarah, you're from
Italy.
Oh, Italy. Okay. Yeah, that's a very interesting point that Sarah raised, and the nuclear issue obviously is kind of also a distinct matter, but North Korea is developing, is in possession of nuclear weapons, and that is a source of international economic sanctions. So obviously that is a huge impediment to any normal economic development. Apart from the nuclear, this kind of security issue and also sanctions imposed on North Korea, do you see other, I guess, like more domestic political reasons why North Korea would be hesitant to move toward this kind of a capitalist economy?